Welcome to Leadership Icons, a platform dedicated to celebrating and sharing the stories of extraordinary leaders who are shaping the future of Pakistan. This series is brought to you by FranklinCovey, Pakistan, whose mission is to enable greatness. At FranklinCovey, we believe in the transformative power of visionary leadership and its profound impact on individuals, organizations, and communities. Today, we are honored to have with us Mr. Zafar Masud, a seasoned banker and reformist with a career spanning nearly 3 decades. He has held prominent leadership positions in multinational banks globally, including American Express Bank, Citigroup, Dubai Islamic Bank, and Barclays Bank. Notably, Mr. Masud was appointed twice as a member of the board of directors of the State Bank of Pakistan, where his contributions have left a lasting impact. Currently, he serves as the president and CEO of the Bank of Punjab, the country's second largest public sector bank with more than 14,000 staff members. Under his leadership, the bank has won numerous accolades, including the EFP Disability Inclusion Excellence Award and the Employer of Choice Award at the Gender Diversity Awards 2023, as well as the Best Bank for Small and Medium Businesses at the Pakistan Banking Awards in 2023. Beyond this, he holds several other key roles, including Chairman of the Board of Directors of Oil and Gas Development Company Limited and Chairman of the Pakistan Banks Association. His expertise is sought after in various prestigious committees, including the Prime Minister's Committee on Homegrown Economic Revival, and he actively contributes to academic institutions like the National Institute of Banking and Finance and the Institute of Business Administration, Karachi. In May 2020, he miraculously survived the PK-8303 plane crash in Karachi, an experience that has deeply influenced his perspective. His forthcoming book, Leased Breath, offers insights drawn from his journey as an air crash survivor. We present to you the man who has seen life, death, up close and personal. Mr. Zafar Masud, welcome to Leadership Icons.
Thank you very much, Uma. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's begin with the new strategic vision you introduced at the Bank of Punjab. What were the key elements and what success have you been able to get so far?
Yeah. No, I'm really honored that, yourselves and FranklinCovey has approached me for this very important initiative of yours. This shall go a long way in many ways, including encouraging our younger generation to look towards Pakistan for staying back rather than flying out. But there are opportunities. People stay back; they'll get the benefit of it. And perhaps I'm one of those people who has been the beneficiary of staying behind in Pakistan. You talked about the strategic vision of the Bank of Punjab. To tell you the truth, there was nothing new. There was nothing out of the ordinary as such. It's all those usual stuff, and some people actually call it a cliche as well, which is customer centricity, digital focused, and social impact. But the fact of the matter is that it's the implementation of the strategic vision which is more important than anything else. And for the strategic vision to be effective and start delivering, it's the challenging is always in making sure that you follow the meritocracy in all your decisions. You hire the people who are better than you. You hire the people who are loyal to the organization and not to the individuals. Obviously, knowing the job is the primary requirement, but then they should also have the appreciation of the larger objective and the vision of the organization. They must be team players.
Absolutely.
So all that put together then helps you in making sure that the strategic vision that you put in place, which is, as I said, not something new or out of the ordinary. Everybody talks about it. It's the implementation piece and making sure how you bring in all the implementation pieces together to get this going. Uh, the biggest challenge, and you have to rise above your own self and interest and take certain decisions in the larger scheme of things are important for the organization. So, following the governance, which is not easy by the way, people would like to be the center of power, making the decision on their own, driving things on their own accord. But it's the governance piece which makes sure that whatever strategic vision you've put in place, it is inclusive. It has larger input from all levels and all from different people within the organization who matter to deliver it. And then, most importantly, you also need to make sure that at times you have to curtail your own power. You have to make sure that in order for the governance to be robust, you need to at times surrender your own power for a more inclusive and democratic decision making. And I think that makes the real difference of making the strategic vision work.
So, you very rightly mentioned that you have to curtail your own power and to be a more inclusive leader. But how does that operate or look like, or I would signal, in a public sector organization?
Very good question, Huma. The fact of the matter is that, in a public sector organization, this becomes even more important than a private sector setting. In a public sector organization, the objectives are much wider and broader.
Absolutely.
In a private sector organization, they are much narrower. So you tend to put in the structure in place where the balance is very much there with those objectives. And it's the governance piece which protects you from all sorts of political pressure that could come your way as well. So if you have a robust governance structure in place, you can always hide behind that governance structure and give a pushback to certain things which are perhaps not good for the organization or the fabric of the organization per se.
Very true, very true. So, the governance structure, as you said, the implementation, I would say its part in the execution is so very important. So, when we talk about an organization like yourself and such a huge bank, how does the strategic vision aligns with the national economic priorities, and what are you doing for the financial inclusion part of it?
Yeah. So you see, when you're talking about large organizations, they can't make any strategic visions in isolation. It has to be embedded and integrated with the larger national economic interest and the piece of financial inclusion. They cannot be, it has to be a subset of the larger. Otherwise, you will always have a challenge or a resistance or a tension of the sorts between the two. Now, the tension is quite obvious when you talk about short-term objectives and slightly medium-term or long-term objectives, because as a commercial organization, the larger national economic priorities of financial inclusion piece has to have a medium to long-term horizon. The short-term piece is important from a commerciality and the commercial delivery of the organization. So it has to be a very good balance of the two.
Very true.
And you need to make sure that while you keep your eye on the ball as far as the short-term objective is concerned, but you should not lose the sight of the medium to long-term benefits, because the lives of the organizations are much longer than the lives of individuals. So the individuals need to be thinking, while I know that they have immediate benefits of the short-term objectives, but they must realize, and you need to sink that in, and communication, by the way, there plays a very key role, to make them realize that, look, it's the medium-term perspective that will eventually take this organization to the next level and benefit your future generations. And where that fits in well with the overall economic priorities and the financial agenda.
Very true. Very true. So, since we are talking about all the interventions that you've been doing, are there any specific examples that you would like to share with our larger audience on how your vision has transformed the Bank of Punjab into a more customer-centric and advanced, and a bank which is more advanced technologically?
Yeah, so see, first of all, I don't think we are there yet as far as the customer appreciation and the importance is concerned. We are also we've covered lots of grounds, and we are moving very fast in terms of catching up on the digital needs of the market, but we still are lagging behind. So I personally think that we still have lots of lots of paths to cover and follow. But having said that, we've come that far very fast.
Okay.
And we come that far very fast because we realize that in order for our survival, it's important that we start talking about customer as the center of our service delivery and our objectives and mission and vision. We also realize that we can't just ignore the impact of technology and digital piece. Also because we work more actively than the others perhaps for the larger government projects, the larger impactful government projects. But that is only possible when you have technology well integrated there, because the scale is so large that
Exactly.
it's impossible for anybody to manage. So in managing those government projects, we were perhaps the first ones who introduced the whole technology piece. The priority sectors like SME and agriculture, again because the scale is so large and because the cost of doing business is also relatively larger than the others, it was important for us to introduce technology there. And the result is that in SME, we've been recognized not only locally but internationally for using technology for promoting SME financing in Pakistan.
So with technology there, we see that the world is really moving towards the DRB model, the digital retail banking model. You think our market is ready for this model? And where do you see the Bank of Punjab vis-a-vis this?
So you see, it's interestingly enough, the transformation is actually much faster than what we had anticipated in pre-COVID era. And COVID era actually, give a real boost.
The pace became faster for
Much
us
faster.
to adapt.
So where the total transaction used to be, let's say in 2020, 2021, around 23% of the total transaction were digitally done. In our bank, it's now 63%, for example, and in other banks, it's actually higher.
Yes.
So it's the demand which is coming from the retailers, from individuals who are asking for these digital banking products to be coming their way. So if you were to ask me 5 years ago, I would have told you, no, I think it will take some time to
Our
get
market
there.
is not that ready.
It's not getting there yet.
Yeah.
But
now you see.
things are moving so fast that my sense is that it will become a real need of the hour going into the future, and it will be absolutely imperative to be making digital offering more robust than what they are right now.
Right. I'm sure that's a huge challenge vis-a-vis the risk and all the other factors associated with the DRB model.
So look, this whole business of risk, it keeps on changing. It varies. It's a dynamic process. So there's a typical saying that there is always a cat and mouse game between the fraudsters and the preventers. In our case, so we used to worry about the fraud in the branches before, the manual fraud, parallel book being run and all. Now we are more concerned about technological frauds and need to be prepared for it. So these risks are getting dynamic, and we have to attune ourselves and be ready for them.
Be ever ready for the new risks. Very true. So with all the changes in the market and the kind of products that we have to offer, the workforce the HR needs to be on the same wavelength also. So for that, an inclusive workspace, a work culture is something that that is so imperative for this kind of innovation that you're talking about. So I've heard there are a lot of changes that you were doing over here. So what specific changes did you implement to create a more inclusive and transparent work culture at BOP?
Yeah. So you rightly said, Huma, that it's the inclusive environment which makes all the difference, when, especially in a fast changing world, because every mind, every individual thinks differently, and if you put all those different minds and thoughts together in one room, that's where you get the best of the innovation out. So it's very important that people with the different backgrounds are part and parcel of your organization, and contributing and more inclusive in terms of making sure that the innovation that you're talking about, the new ideas that you're introducing, are the ones which have more acceptance and which are more broad based in terms of impact. So we've done a lot of work as far as the inclusivity piece is concerned. We introduced various policies and programs. We consistently been winning the Banking on Equality Award of the State Bank of Pakistan. We had introduced affirmative action policy for bringing in special people with special
Differently able people.
the special people with special needs and special requirements. We brought in women. We've increased our take in women from 16% to 23%, and we consistently being outbeating the target which has been given to us by the central bank as far as the inclusion of differently abled and women are concerned.
That's very heartening to know that, because a lot of time organizations talk about diversity and inclusion, but they stop at diversity. There is diversity, but the lack of inclusion is something that a lot of people.
So there's no point having a diversity without inclusion. They have to go hand in hand. It will be only beneficial. Diversity is only beneficial when there's inclusion.
Yep, absolutely.
And inclusivity brings in the best of the ideas, as I said. And you are right. People talk about a lot about the DEI, because that's the buzzword these days. But the real action is missing. In our organization, we genuinely believe in this. We genuinely believe that we need to encourage people with different backgrounds, with different ideas.
It's very heartening to see that you just mentioned that your women inclusivity or the workforce percentage is 23% here at BOP, which is much above what the State Bank stipulates for. So how were you able to manage that, and what is your philosophy behind it?
Yeah. So you see, State Bank of Pakistan actually has set up a target for all the banks. So we are much ahead of that target that the State Bank has set. Obviously, the expectation of State Bank is to be much higher than 23%. But nevertheless, we generally believe that our number should be much higher than what it is right now. But to be honest, where we've gotten in 23%, we're very proud of that. Secondly, we have been able to introduce lots of HR policies. So gender mainstreaming, harassment and deterrent against retaliation policy. Affirmative action, by the way, helped a lot in attracting women. We wanted to make BOP a safer place for women to come and work. The work-life balance was very important. And some kind of flexibility women always needed when they are at the workplace in terms of it. So we introduced different programs. We introduced flexible working arrangements. We introduced daycare facility, by the way, commuting facilitation, and then gender sensitization sessions were very critical in terms of making people realize that there is zero tolerance for any sort of harassment. And trust me, at times we've made an example out of people. For even a minor harassment case, we have given them the highest penalty possible, and I personally resisted many times in accommodating or letting people go on harassment cases, because this is not something which we can tolerate. And this is what makes the whole work environment acceptable for.
And attracts more people to come here, because the
Absolutely.
word of mouth spreads with how the work culture is about
Indeed.
it. Very true. So we mentioned earlier also there is a book which you have been writing and it is about to come out. The title is something that I'm looking forward to read it, The Least Breath. Can you tell us something more about it?
Sure. So, Lee's Breath is a book of the 10 musings of myself post my air crash. It's been accepted by an international publisher and expected to be out by January 2025. This is something which I'm very excited about, because it's rather than telling people the story of the crash per se, I have gone a step further, and I've tried to highlight the learnings, because I believe that it's important and it's incumbent upon me to share my learnings with people who have not, and I hope nobody experiences that, who has not experienced the death so closely, because that changes the entire perspective of life. And that is, I hope that book is helpful for people's personal as well as professional lives.
We are looking forward for the book to come out. I will be the first one to read it. So when you talk about, you just talked about the crash, and everybody knows you. I think people might not know you as the president of BOP, but they might know you as the only survivor of the PK.
Only 2 survivors.
Yeah, one of the only 2 survivors of PK 8303. So as a leader, we would like to know you, one, as a person, as Mr. Zafar Masud, the person who you were before 2020, and who you are now after 2020, because it has been quite some time and you have been thinking about it and you've been writing about it, and I'm sure there is a shift in you also. So would you like to mention that to us?
Sure. So first of all, Uma, I personally believe that your personal life and your professional life should be bosom buddies. You shouldn't have two faces. Whatever you are should be reflected in your personal life too. Either you have a good person, so you are a good person at work as well. You can't be a good person at work, but you are not a good person in life. So to my mind, these are two integrated things. They are bosom buddies. They're joined from the hip, and you can't separate the two. But having said that, there are still certain learnings which are common, and some of them are sort of are not common as such. Starting from the fact that I've become very brave in terms of decision making or taking risks. It used to be I always believed in taking risks, because I personally believe that if there are no risks, there are no rewards. So for better rewards, you have to take risks. But after the crash, I've realized that decision making has become much easier for me. I can take difficult decisions in a much easy way than it used to be. Also, the tolerance towards people. That was also something which was lacking in the past. And I won't say lacking in the past, but perhaps not as tolerant about our people and let them making mistakes. Now I really want to give them a chance and let them make a mistake. The other thing is empathy. I have to make people realize, I have to understand people's problems in life, their challenges in life, and then work towards taking care of their deficits and problems, and help them, and then in making them an improved individual, and hence improved professional. There is a ultimate desire to make a change in life, to make a change in the way I work and make an impact whatever I do. So you see, the important thing is that, the it's given me a lot of clarity in life. What is important and what is not. When you are younger or you haven't experienced what I have experienced, perhaps your perspective in life is very different. For me, after the crash, the money or the position is not important. It's whichever position you are on, you have to start doing things in a way that makes an impact. You have to. It's the relationship with people that matters. It's the individual which is more important than anything else. Your relationship with that individual, whoever will come in contact with you. I've become very careful in terms of, whatever step I take or decision I make or action I undertake, because when the crash was happening, I had no regrets and I was ready to go. But now I've realized that it's such a satisfying feeling when you're going and you have no regrets, that sooner or later, one way or the other, one has to go. But at that time, you should not have any regrets. So between now and whenever my calling is, I don't want to be in a situation where there are regrets now.
So your end in mind is no regrets.
No regrets. The objective in life is to make sure that there are no regrets. Then, there's an appreciation for fragility of life. And the life is so fragile that every moment is important. Every word that you say, every action that you take, everything you do, you don't know whether you will have the second chance of doing it or undoing it of that what you've done just now. And then, as I said, it's all about the importance of relationships. It's important of your relationship with people. It's important about how important people are in your life. These are the few learnings.
So I'm sure while you were recovering, there must be a lot of introspection that you would be doing at that point in time. So is there anything, I would say something that was very touching for you, or any significant moment that stands out to you while you were recovering? And how has that helped you in becoming this person who is resilient, who lives with this motto of no regrets?
So, Huma, it's your support system that is very important in life, and that keeps you going and making all the right decisions. In my case, the recovery was just impossible if I did not get the extra care and love from my family and friends. And to me, that is the most important element in one's life. I am, by the way, very fortunate in that respect, and always been. It's not just the crash. Even before that, I've got so much affection and love from my friends and family that is unbelievable. I believe I am the blessed one in that respect. But after the crash, there were a couple of actions that I took, which I think I am very proud of. One is the fact that I decided to travel back on the same airline, on the same seat, and on the same flight going back to Lahore, because I wanted to allay those fears in mind.
That's a very bold step to take.
It was very difficult because every single person around me, my family and friends, were opposing the idea of me traveling. And my mother did not talk to me for a couple of days, but this was important for my own sanity. It was also important from giving the message right, that look, these things happen, but you have to bounce back and take them head on. You can't just be overwhelmed by all of them and then change yourself. The other important thing was the fact that I decided to undergo psychiatric treatment. So I started talking to a psychiatrist. I've been through that treatment or
the therapy
for for 6 months until I went back to Lahore, came back 4 months after my crash, I came back to Lahore. And then he wanted to figure out after the travel how I behave. So it's continued for another 2 months. And then when he was completely satisfied that I seemed to be in the right frame of mind, and then he decided to move on. But for me to take that decision, and you know, despite all the taboos around it, to go for psychological therapy, psychiatric therapy, was a bold decision.
Was a bold decision. I'm sure it was. And also, it would have been very overwhelming, though you did travel, but that 1.5 to quarter to 2 hours that you were traveling, I mean, it could have been quite overwhelming for you. And so, what have you been doing to build yourself or have a more stronger emotional resilience?
Yeah, so you see, the luck, it's a mere luck that, you know, I fainted before the crash. And when I got the consciousness, I was already rescued. So, because of that, my mental state remained sort of unimpaired. So I was lucky in that sense that I never experienced that kind of situation. But going through such a traumatic thing in life itself has lots of, you know, lots of side effects. And the best thing is to take those fears head on, address them, is to try and keep yourself distracted and be positive, and look at the brighter side of things. Although it was a horrible thing that had happened, but there is always a brighter side to things than than merely the darker side. And I think that kept me going. That element kept me beating the possible negative repercussions of this.
All right, thank you so much. You know, I was just thinking that even now there must be many things that overwhelm you. But how do you stop yourself from being overwhelmed?
Yeah, so you see, one thing for sure is that you have to look at things in relative terms. Is it really worth your while to be excited about something? Is it something you really need to react in excitement, or you need to think through and then react? Because you know, as I said, I'm extra careful now in making sure that none of my actions would lead to a possible regret when I'm leaving this world for the ultimate world. And this is very important, that you just do not react to things right away.
So you pause
through,
and think through, and then you
sleep
react. Very
over
true.
them.
Yeah.
And I started actually literally started sleeping over them overnight, and then decide in the morning how do I need to react on something that needed that kind of attention.
Yes, I think that's a very good measure of being in control of your emotions and also the reactions to whatever steps you would be taking. So after going through such a traumatic experience, how has your definition of success changed? Your outlook on life has changed, but how do you measure success now?
Yeah, so first of all, success is a very relative term. It varies from individual to individual and their perspective, their orientation, their priorities in life. My perspective of success has changed substantially, by the way, which was very different pre-crash. In the sense that I realized that it's people who are the most important,
Yeah.
important element in your life. It's the relationships. It's, although before that also I was always been somebody who always have had very strong relationships with people, long lasting. But I realized as a measure of success for me is somebody who is honest and sincere to himself, and who is honest and sincere to the people who come in contact with him. And that's where you really need to at times go beyond your personal interest also, to make sure that your relationships are not spoiled or compromised in any way. It's not an easy thing.
I'm sure, and the position at where you right now, it must be even a more difficult thing.
It's a very difficult thing, but then, you have to take difficult decisions, but then you only need to make sure that you take those decisions on merit and without any biases, without any emotions coming in the way. And to my mind, your impact on people is the biggest success yardstick.
Very true. Also, you said you are now very, very clear, and you have a huge clarity on what is success, what life is all about. You talk about relationships. So if I would ask that, what is the legacy that Zafar Masud wants to leave, how would you put that in a sentence?
Impact on people.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about how you've been thinking, how your thinking has changed, how you've evolved the bank. But I just want to ask you a few questions which are more like a rapid fire round.
Sure.
And I'm going to just give you 2 words. I know sometimes both of them matter, but I want to know what matters the most for you. Sure. So my first question is risk or reward?
Risk.
All right. Public sector or private sector?
Oh, public sector, hands down.
Innovation or regulation?
Now, that's a difficult one. I would tend to go for the balance of the two, but if you ask me for one of the two, I would say innovation.
All right. Leadership or management?
I don't think it needs any response. It's the leadership.
Okay. Legacy or a quick return?
Legacy for sure.
Profitability or social impact?
Oh, social impact. Profitability will come on its own.
All right. So everybody looks up to you. You've been doing great work over here at BOP.
Thank you.
We keep on hearing about you, but we also want people like you who have this great positive impact, positive thinking, to give us a few words or a few thoughts for aspiring leaders who are going through a lot of challenges at this point in time, personal and professional. So what should they do to cultivate the resilience and maintain the integrity in their journey of leadership?
So 3 things, Uma. Empathy, empathy, and only empathy. And I have a full thesis on it, by the way. I have a thesis called Management by Empathy. I genuinely believe that it's the empathy piece which makes all the difference in the world for making people motivated, committed, loyal, and at the end of the day, delivering at their best. You need to be empathetic with people. And then, as I told you earlier, it's all about, your professional life and your personal life should be the same. You should not have 2 faces. And trust me, the way you behave in the personal life, if you behave the same way in professional life, that makes a lot of difference. To be honest with you, we keep on talking about, people at work saying that, it's my family, but they don't behave with them as family. You have to, whatever you are saying, you have to stand by and live by your words. And that's only possible if you are an empathetic leader.
That's only possible with empathy. This question is not there, but I would like to ask you this question. If you rate yourself in empathy, how would you rate yourself pre-2020 and now?
So I've always been very empathetic, and that has come from my parents, from my mother particularly. I've seen her, she's my teacher as far as empathy is concerned. That empathy element has always been there. But that was reinforced after the crash. I realized that, in order to get the best out of people, you need to be empathetic. You need to appreciate and understand their constraints and problems. And you work with their constraints and problems. You give them leeway to make mistakes. You give them the opportunity to make mistakes to an extent where, it's within the tolerable limits. I think they turn around and deliver. And they deliver much better than your expectations.
I'm sure you must have seen people change.
Many times.
Change, and you changing your perspective about people, and in return, them changing and the whole game is changed.
Absolutely. That's how it works.
Ji Zafar, I'm really interested because I think you're so absolutely right about how empathy really changes the face of everything. It's a whole new ball game. So I'm so wanting to understand that when you change your perspective and you wanted to be more empathetic towards people and practice more empathy, is there any particular example that you can share with our viewers where you had a very different perspective about somebody and you used your empathy and you wanted to see the person in a different light? And how did that affect that person's perspective? How did he respond to empathy? And what were you able to achieve together?
It's a very good question, Uma, and you put me on the spot actually. Um, uh, so, two things. One is the fact that, at times people think that if you are an empathetic leader or you have an element of empathy in you, you're actually a very soft-hearted person.
A weak.
It's a or a weaker or a weak personality. It's a misnomer. Empathy means that you give people chances, you understand their constraints, work with them for better improvement. But that doesn't mean that you let them make mistakes and you let them go off the hook. That's not happening. Because the true empathetic leader has to make sure that this is my line I have to draw. Because if he is crossing or she is crossing that line, then she is actually treading in somebody else's area, and you are very unfair to that particular person or the group of persons at the expense of this person. So you need to work with people, you need to guide them. There has to be a relationship of honesty between the people I deal with. So this happens to me every day. This is not something which happened to one particular person and not to the other. People make mistakes. And when they come to me and say, look, sir, we made this mistake, but this is what the background was, this is what we did, and this is what happened, then I work with them and I tell them it's fine really. The moment they try and act over smart, they try and challenge my intelligence, that is somewhere I have to draw a line and tell them, look, I don't have tolerance for this. But as long as people accept that they have a mistake, that's good enough for me, because I know that now this person will be careful and work towards getting over that deficit or learning from this mistake, because he realized that mistake. This happens to me every day. And I've seen people improving every day. I've seen them delivering every day in a better light, in a better way. And other way around too, when people don't accept it and they keep on making the similar mistakes, then you have to deal with them differently.
Yeah, and empathy actually really increases the trust in the relationship.
Yes.
And when the empathy is coming from top down, I'm sure there'll be a lot of a trust within the organization also, because that's what brings people together.
So it's the actions of the person at the top. I won't say leader, but that's would say whether you are the head of the department or you don't necessarily have to be. Everybody doesn't have to be a leader, but the person at the top, his or her actions makes the whole difference. You talk and say something else, but you practice different stuff. Then you can't be an effective boss or a leader or a manager. You will always be taken as somebody who has a real conflict in life, saying something else and delivering something else. So as long as that gap is not there, you will see the entire organization falling in place and following a joint vision or an element of empathy for each other. But you really have to practice it. You need to follow it religiously.
Yes. Empathy doesn't happen with saying, it's all about practice.
It's all about practice.
Yeah.
It has to be in the act.
People think it takes a longer time, but it does not.
No, it
Like how Stephen Covey used to say with people, fast is slow and slow is fast.
Yeah.
So this is how it is.
Yes.
So thank you so very much for such a great conversation.
welcome.
I would say a very, very insightful conversation. A lot of learnings for us and for leaders all around our, I would say, target audience who would be watching this video.
Oh, thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much.